And we have a guest for you tonight. And Trasher's going to talk to Tom Bernhardt of the Eau Claire Area Stars. Tom, welcome to the show. And Trasher, take it away.
All right. Thanks, MJ. All right. I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction here. Um, Tom Bernhardt played high school hockey for Eau Claire Memorial back in the mid to late 80s. And Mike Sullivan, who's one of our friends from the Eau Claire area, called him a dominant defenseman. Uh, Bernie also played a couple years at UWEC. He coached the Eau Claire North boys for 11 plus years, and he's been with the Eau Claire Area Stars for, I believe this is his 7th year, and they were the state champs in 2018. Tom, welcome to the show tonight. We're glad to have you.
Thanks for having me tonight.
Hey, no problem. So we'll get right to it. This year, you guys have a 14-2-1 record. You rank 4th on the WIPH top 10. Um, so last year, you graduated Charlotte Akravic, Ava Keeson. You maybe have a little bit of a more balanced scoring lineup this year. Madison Schwengler and Paige Rodriguez lead your team with 23 points each. You have 5 other girls scoring in double figures. How do you approach this season knowing that you lost the big guns like Akravic and Keeson last year?
Yeah, and I think, Mike, the last couple of years we were fortunate to have some high-end players that, if you look statistically, I mean, these kids were scoring 50, 60 points a season, and, we were fortunate to have the back-to-back players of the year and Abigail Stowe back in 2018 and Charlotte Akravic last year. And, quite honestly, going into this year, it was a question mark, I think, for us as to who was going to step up. And, we've been fortunate this year to have multiple kids, as you mentioned, scoring in double digits. And it seems like every night there's somebody that's different that's contributing to us for us offensively.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you have Schwengler with 23 points, Rodriguez with 23, Cami Krumanacher with 17, Lauren Carmody with 16, Paige Rupert 16, Annika Olsen 14, Emmy Verhaag with 10. I mean, that's some pretty balanced scoring. And it's like you don't have to really lean on that one player every game to get you over the hump.
Yeah, I know it's the depth. I think that this year is really defined us as a team, and what we've been able to do here, and especially the last few weeks where we've been getting, I hate to say a third line, but we've been getting production from 3 different lines offensively, and it just seems as though it's one game, it's one group that steps up and plays well for us offensively, and we've always been pretty solid group defensively with our goaltenders that we have and our defensive core, limited teams as far as our shots that we give up and our goals allowed. So, I think this year is probably the most balanced team that we've had and I've had coaching here in the last 7 years.
So looking at the stats, I mean, you have a pleasant problem in that you have Alicia Smith, who's a sophomore, and Naomi Stowe, who's been your goalie for the last couple of years, a junior, basically more or less splitting time. How do you kind of deal with that?
Well, it's a nice problem to have, and unfortunately, when you're looking at the goaltender position, there's only one of them that can play. And we've been in a situation this year where early on we, really rotated both goaltenders, and both kids have worked really hard in practice and have pushed each other and have shown improvement. And the last 3 games, it's really been Alicia that's had a hot hand for us, and that's one of the things that we look at, and hopefully that continues. And Naomi, when her opportunity arises, she steps up and plays well like she's been playing. Both of them are over 91% save percentage, I believe, on the season. So, we're very confident putting either young lady in there between the pipes. And right now it's Alicia that's played well, very well the last 3, giving up 1, I think, in our last 3 games against some pretty good hockey teams.
Yeah, you have 5 shutouts between the 2 of them, and you are correct. They are both over 91%. I don't think you have a backup goalie. I think you just have two two starting goalies. It just, depends on who's got the hot hand at the moment, and maybe give them the opportunity to step up and play for that particular game.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, we've talked to the kids multiple times during the course of the season about, how we're going to use them. And whoever's not playing in the varsity game is going to get an opportunity to play in a reserve game that we'll have. And so, I mean, they're both getting playing time, and then they both get extensive work in practice. So, it's when your opportunity arises, Mike, I think the kids have done a wonderful job of stepping up and playing well when their opportunity has arisen.
All right. Let's talk special teams. The play so far that I've seen on the website, the stats is excellent. You are first in the state in your power play, 28% success. Fourth in the state on the penalty kill, 91.5. Tell me a little bit about those teams.
Yeah, I think special teams is something that, like we've said the last couple of years, where you've really had some high end players, and special teams has been a strength of ours. And you look at power play opportunities, and I think kids sometimes get frustrated in practice because in many cases they're going against our penalty kill, which we feel is definitely a strength of ours with the gals that we're able to roll out there in a penalty kill situation. But we're statistically, especially when you get to the tournament and you play as many close hockey games as we played this year, those special team situations are going to be extremely important going down the stretch here.
All right. Let's look at the playoffs a little bit. Section 1, basically, I'm leaving a couple teams out here because they're not like high rank, but they could be contenders. Eau Claire Area, Hayward, Hudson, St. Croix Valley. Arguably, I think you have the toughest sectional in the state. You got 4 teams. Any one of them could go to state. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and that's really been the situation the last few years, where it's hard no matter what section you're in. It's difficult to get to a state tournament. I think you've got to have the breaks fall your way. You have to be healthy going into the tournament and stay healthy during the tournament and capitalize on your opportunities. And we know coming out of our section, is definitely a privilege. And the last couple years, it's been us back in 2018, and we were a 2 seed, having split with Hudson back in 2018, and we came out of there. And last year, Hudson was a 2 seed coming out of our section. But I mean, you talk about the teams that we do have, and I don't want to leave anyone out just because you look at the games and the comparable scores with teams within our section, and they're all very close hockey games, 1-2 goal games. And anyone on any given night, I think, can win a playoff game and come out of this section this year.
All right. Del, you got a question for Tom?
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
It's going well, Del.
I actually got to watch you guys when you played the Lynx. And, of course, Trasher knows I like keeping my own spreadsheet here besides the stats we got on site. And going over my spreadsheet right now, I look and say out of the teams in the state, you've actually got the 3rd highest winning percentage. Your opponents have the 2nd highest opponents winning percentage, and your opponents, you actually sitting there with the 3rd highest their winning percentage. And that, I think, it reflects in the way you've had to play this year. You beat the Lynx 3-0. You tied Central Wisconsin the first time you played them and lost to them last time. And with what you're saying about Hudson, and being up there in the conference and everything, it's always going to be tough. So when you're putting your schedule together, how much does that play into it, trying to make sure you're playing a tough schedule, getting you ready for the playoffs?
Well, first of all, Del, I might have you send me those statistics for the CD meeting in a couple of weeks. That's pretty impressive that you're able to compile all that. But no, I think the one thing that we look at is, the programs that consistently have a JV varsity reserve team. We need to get as many opportunities for our team to play those programs like the Central Wisconsins and the Hudsons that have traditionally been, strong teams. This year we were fortunate to have an opportunity to add the Metro Lynx, knowing Mike McCursey and he had a good young team coming in this year. And Mike and I had an opportunity to talk last year down in the state tournament. And, he was coming this way to play Hudson on a Friday and wanted to play us on a Saturday. So I think you look at the teams in Wisconsin, and you obviously are going to have your conference games and you have your holiday tournament. And, we've been fortunate to be able to play the Bay Areas and the Fondies and the Fox Cities teams. And, we've got Central Wisconsin coming up here again for the third time this season where, those teams and those programs are good measuring sticks for you. And, that's what we talk to the kids about. It's like you play Central Wisconsin back in November, you play them in January, and you're going to play them again in February. So, that's how you kind of gauge where you're at as a program playing these teams. And I think you reach out to, other programs that have the numbers and are able to field the, reserve programs to give your kids opportunities, because I think that's something that definitely is going to help you in the future. So, I mean, we play the teams that we play, I think, based on, their history of their program, the numbers that they have in their program, and the level of competition that they're going to provide us.
All right. Burglar?
Yeah, I've seen your team play a couple of times this year, and I was just wondering, we made our switch this year from top 10s to top 6s, mainly because of the splitting of the boys side. But in the past, the top 10 for girls hasn't really necessarily been a top 10. For a lot of years, it was like the top 4 or 5, and then there was just a huge drop off after that. This year, it seems like it goes a lot deeper. Again, your section, heavily involved in that, but there seem to be a lot more teams that are capable of beating, any of the top teams this year than we probably could do. We could probably even do a legitimate top 10 with, 10 solid girls teams in there. What do you think about the depth of the girls things this year? Am I off base?
Oh, definitely. Oh, no, definitely. And we had a stretch back in January where we lost our first game at Hudson and came back and 2 days later got beat by Central Wisconsin. And, the girls struggled, and that was a 48-hour window where we didn't play very well. But we talked to the kids after the game and just told them, one thing that we have to realize is there's probably 10, 12 hockey teams in the state. And, those 10, 12 hockey teams on any given night have an opportunity to beat somebody else. And you look at comparable scores, and that's the one thing that you look at the Prep Hockey website and you look at scores, and sometimes you scratch your head and try and figure out what in the world's going on. So, I think it's good for the state tournament. It's good for the playoffs coming up where, kids, I think, realize that every single night that they have to show up and play as hard as they possibly can, because the team that they're playing is definitely capable of beating them. And I think you look at our section here in Section 1, and I mean, there's some hockey teams here where, I think 1 to 7, anyone has an opportunity to win on any given night. So again, it's going to be a battle down the stretch here, and it's going to be something that I think is going to be good for the tournament series and good for people to come out and watch playoff hockey.
All right, Thomas, we appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. We always enjoy talking to coaches and getting their insight, and you definitely added to it tonight. So Tom Bernhardt, Eau Claire Area Stars, thank you very much, and good luck the rest of the season, and you take care.
Okay, thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, let's move on to our games of the week. We had the Metro Lynx taking on the Cap City Cougars and Hayward and Northland Pines. Let's start out with Metrolinx and Cap City. Dell, you got a chance to check that one out.
Thanks, MJ. This was the second meeting in the Badger Conference between Cap City Cougars and the Metro Lynx. The Cap City won the first game by a score of 3-1, which included 2 power play goals in the second period. And so we were expecting a nice tight game the second time around also. And we weren't disappointed. There was only 1 goal in the first period, and that was by Sydney Rass, and was assisted by 2 of her teammates, Lauren Johnson, Mia Getsky. And that was the only goal in the first period for the Lynx to lead 1-0 at the end of 1. The second period was about 30-some seconds into the period that Cap City's Amanda Bauer was credited with a goal to tie the game. But the Lynx didn't want to give that momentum up, and about a minute into the second period took a 2-1 lead, and then a little bit later in the period scored a power play goal to go up 3-1. And that's how this second period came to an end. In the third period, the Cougars kept battling back and actually came back and cut the score 3-2, but Sydney Rass was able to put the game away for the Lynx with another goal to cap off a 4-2 victory to give both teams a 1 loss in the Badger Conference. And so with that, you've got, the Lynx and Cap City possibly looking at a chance to either end up in a tie for the conference title, or Rock County is going to have something to say about it with their next games against them and see if they knock one of them off. And I'll toss it back to you, MJ.
Okay, we'll talk about the boys' game. Burglar down here for Hayward Northland Pines.
Yes, I'm sad to say that I did not actually make it up to that game. As you know, it started snowing on Wednesday and didn't end until Saturday. And back when my kids played hockey, I was the typical hockey parent, and we drove through anything to get to a game because you had to. The game was scheduled. For a while, both the boys played goalies, so, you have to get to the game. They need the goalie. Or if not the goalie, at least they need the equipment. We had that too. But I didn't have to drive up to Northland to Eagle River, so I didn't. I thought they have Live Barn up there, which I think there are over 50 rinks in the state that do broadcast their games on Live Barn. But so I thought I would watch it there and listen on WRJO radio to the silver-tongued Chris Oatman on the play-by-play, and I did not catch the name of his broadcast, his color man, but he's a hoot. I listened to the game, didn't get to watch it because Live Barn was down until like 5 minutes left in the third period. So I don't have much of a recap other than it was a scoreless first period. They traded goals in the second. Northland Pines, Riley McGee scored with about 5 minutes left in the second, and a couple minutes after that, Gibson Walsh tied it for Hayward. But then Pines put it away in the third period. Goals by Max Brown and Zach Millette. Pines outshot Hayward. The stats on our site say 39-16, but those don't actually jive with what they were announcing during the broadcast. Yeah, they're not even close to what they were announcing during the broadcast. So I don't know if they entered the stats wrong or if because the shots were fairly close. I mean, in the first and second period, and they say they're way off on the score sheet. So I don't know who was right. Anyway, I didn't get to see it, but Pines won 3-1. We usually do that was the Pines Classic. We normally have done the championship game in that, but we wanted to get up to this one because it was number 2 and number 3 in Division 2 in the state. And then the next day, Northland Pines turned around and shut out University School. So good weekend for Pines hosting their tournament.
Well, we will hear more about that USM Pines game shortly. It's time to move on to our Wyndham Garden Inn Players of the Week, the Garden Inn of Fitchburg. And Burglar, step right up and tell us about the boys and girls winners. And we had a lot of entries for Players of the Week this week.
Especially on the girls' side. There are a lot of girls that had big weeks this week, and we had several to choose from for our Wyndham Garden Inn of Fitchburg Players of the Week. The Wyndham Garden Inn, the official state tournament headquarters of Wisconsin Prep Hockey, and that's not too far down the road. On the girls' side, Grace Bunnell, defense for the Metro Lynx. She had two assists in a 4-2 win over Cap Cities, and she had one assist in a 2-0 win over Fox Cities. But she was nominated more for her great defensive play, stopping numerous odd man rushes against the second-ranked Cap Cities and fifth-ranked Fox Cities, which she turned into stopped odd man rush, then transitioned, passing the puck up, turned into a quick goal for her team. So defender Grace Bunnell of the Metro Lynx is our Wyndham Garden Inn Player of the Week on the girls' side. On the boys' side, sticking with defense, somebody we had just mentioned earlier. Well, I don't know if we mentioned him by name, but Brett Wilkins, the goaltender for Northland Pines. He had, like I said, on the site it says the stats that were officially entered, it said he had 15 saves in that win over Hayward. But according to the stats that I have, he had 18 saves after 2 periods. So unless they took 3 shots away in the third period, that number's wrong. He had more than 15 saves, at least according to Chris Oltman. And never doubt Chris Oltman. He's been doing radio up there forever. Anyway, then he had 27 saves and a shutout, 3-0 shutout over University School. So it's the second year in a row that Wilkins has shut out University School in the Pines Classic Championship game. 27 saves this year, 28 last year. So Brett Wilkins, our boys' Player of the Week.
What a job by Brett Wilkins. So Brett Wilkins and Grace Bunnell are the winners of our Players of the Week this week. And congratulations to both of them. And once again, we will open it up for nominations next weekend. And then next week on the show, we'll have another Boys and Girls Player of the Week. Well, a lot of them out there are like, okay, well, what's going on with the top 6? Well, here's what's going on with the top 6. In the top 6, Bill Jr. will tell you about it. Some change and not some change.
Well, we have change in all 3 divisions this week. We did not have that last week. Girls top 6, Central Wisconsin is still number 1. Madison Metro Lynx 2. Eau Claire Area Stars are 3rd. Cap City Cougars are 4th. The Fox City Stars are 5th. And the St. Croix Valley Fusion are still down in the 6th spot. They seem to be stuck there. Boys Division 2, Fond du Lac Springs hangs on to the number 1 spot by the skin of their teeth. Northland Pines is 2nd. Hayward is 3rd. Waunakee is 4th. McFarland is 5th. And Amory is 6th. And in Division 1, Notre Dame is 1st, Wausau West is 2nd, Verona is 3rd, Hudson is 4th, Arrowhead is 5th, and University School is 6th.
Well, guys, any thoughts on what you see here with the top 6s?
Well,
it may come out with the Badgerland tournament coming up this week, because Superior has dropped off our top 6 in the D2 for the first time this season. But the wise voters, I think, had recognized that Waupun has made a charge up in the Badgerland Conference. Other people were looking at somehow Amory got in there, but we'll see how this Badgerland tournament goes this weekend. Whether Waupun is a legitimate threat in Division 2.
I think a question is going to be, and Burglar and Webb, you both know about this because I've kind of talked about it a little bit, but number 2 Northland Pines went 3-0 last week, beating a top 6 D1 opponent, a top 6 D2 opponent, 3-0, while Fondy Springs had a 1-1 tie. And I personally, I put Pines ahead and put Springs number 2. But the other voters seem to think that Springs still is the stronger team. Any comment on that?
Oh, they probably remembered that Springs beat Northland Pines 5-2 in their only head-to-head match this year.
I mean, that does go a long way, and Pines also took that loss to an unranked Spash team, in which they played frankly bad defense. Discounting the empty netter, they gave up 5 goals. 4 of them, their defensemen did nothing, while Spash players took wide open shots in front of the net. I mean, I saw that in person. I still voted for Pines number 1 on my ballot, but I would not fault anybody who put Fondy Springs still at number 1.
When I look at at it, I look at the win percentage for Fondy Springs is at 84.2, and Northland Pines is at 83.3. But then when I look at their opponents' win percentage, Northland Pines has got their opponents are sitting at 58.7, and Fondy Springs opponents are at 54.4. And then when you look at their opponents' win percentage, they're sitting at 52.9 and 52.3. So I mean, they're very close.
They're basically neck and neck.
That. Right, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they come out in their sectionals and everything. And now, are they? One of you will have to answer this for me. Are they in sectionals 2 and 4 in different sectionals?
Those 2 teams are in different sectionals. Section 2 is basically the Great Northern Conference with Marshfield added, and Medford moved over to Section 1. But otherwise, Section 2 is basically the Great Northern Conference tournament all over again.
So I mean, I think Division 2, their sectionals and who actually makes it down to Madison for the D2 is going to make for an interesting tournament down there.
Well, I don't know whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, or I don't know how you want to classify this in terms of Northland Pines, but the fact that there are 2 divisions, because this is Pines' year. We went through this in Antigo about 3 or 4 years ago, where Alex Nagel and that group, they had a strong group that was successful all the way up through youth hockey. When they got to be seniors, they actually went to the state tournament. Didn't fare that well down there, but with Northland Pines, this is their year. They've got 9 seniors who have been successful all the way up, and the team is building, and they've gotten stronger each of the last few years. And had there just been a 1 division tournament, this is probably a year where they could battle, the Wausau West in the old Section 3, to actually go to the state tournament. If you went by the old sections, they would be, it'd be between them and Wausau West. I think those 2 teams are hands down above anybody else. So as it is with them now in Division 2, they pretty much have a clear shot. But I think they had a team that was built to actually, challenge in a 1 division state tournament for that section.
What I find very strange about this whole thing is that it seems like Northland Pines has this huge advantage playing in the Dome over anybody except for Spash. Maybe it's just my imagination, but I think going back that they
historically
struggled against Spash.
Mosinee, historically they also have trouble with Mosinee in the Dome.
Yeah, I mean they kick anybody else's butt. If Springs came up there, they'd probably beat them. But if they went down and played on the big sheet of Fond du Lac, it might be a different story. So I mean, it's like home rink, visiting rink advantage. I mean, it just depends on where you're playing at that point in time on who wins the game.
Wow, Michael, you silenced the whole group with that thought.
Yeah, they're probably just totally freaked out that I actually said something that might have made sense.
Yeah,
Well,
it did make sense.
He managed to string 3 coherent sentences together.
Unless you look at their game against Mosinee at the Dome this year, where they actually beat Mosinee 9-0 on January 2nd at the Dome.
Yeah, that's what made the loss to Spash so surprising, because Mosinee turned around and beat the snot out of Spash, and then Spash went up and beat Pines.
Yeah, we've had that down here where, teams take turns beating on teams other than Verona beating up everybody down here. But as you see the article that the Eastside Lakers got their first win in 8 years in Big 8 conference play, they beat Beloit. Now, the week before, Janesville went up and beat the Lakers like 11, 12, 13 nothing. But the next week, Beloit, after losing to the Lakers, follow me here, Beloit goes into Janesville and beats Janesville 5-2. I mean, that's just the kind of year it's been. It's just, you just never know.
MJ, maybe you know a little bit about this. The team that kind of surprises me out of the Big 8 is Sun Prairie this year. I mean, their record isn't bad, but we understand Wisconsin Rapids is struggling a little bit this year. It's probably one of their down years. They beat them 4-2. And they hung right with USM, lost 9-8 to USM. But then Edgewood turned around and beat them 6-1. And I don't know. I'm not sure who. I haven't seen Sun Prairie play, and I know that they had played Janesville, so I'm thinking you may have seen them play.
No, I didn't see them play yet, but that's a good question. I'd love to talk to Chris Winkler about that. I mean, a 9-8 game with USM. I mean, wow, what a shootout that was.
I want to go back to the Eastside Lakers for a second, if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got that note about them getting their first conference win in 8 years. So I went to where anybody would expect to. I went to Madison.com to see if they had any articles about it. And I'm looking at their Prep Sports page right now. And scrolling all the way back to January 18th, where it stopped scrolling, there are 0 hockey articles.
Yeah,
zero.
Unless it's a big game, they don't send somebody
I'm
out.
looking at like 30 high school sports stories over the last 9 days, and 0 are hockey.
Well, and even when you look in the hard copy into the state journal, basically all you see for the boys or girls hockey in the state journal are the box scores.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a bunch of football here, like some commits and stuff like that. Lots of basketball. I think there's a wrestling match in here. No hockey. Come on. None. The Eau Claire Leader Telegram is behind a full-on paywall now. You don't even get your 3 free articles a month or anything anymore. There are days when, with scores missing on our site, so I go to the Wausau Daily Herald, and I look at every day the local papers have that Thursday's sports scores, and you can see the basketball team and the wrestling team and everybody. Most of the time I go there, they don't have the hockey scores listed, just basketball and wrestling. I'm pretty sure that the Lacrosse Tribune is the only daily paper in the state that covers hockey.
Well, I do know that if I'm looking for scores up around the Eau Claire area, I'll go to the Eau Claire Leader Telegram, and I can find scores for the hockey in there.
You can find scores, but you can't read any of their articles because they're behind a paywall.
Right. And Superior, of course, I can go up there and find some articles. But since we're speaking about what was going on in Madison, Burglar, didn't you have an interview on Madison this week?
That was at the radio station. Yes, I was quite eloquent. I didn't go back and listen to it. It was a half-hour program that covered several topics, and I represented hockey because Trasher was in Toronto, and I drew the short straw. So yes, I think I did well.
Trasher, were you auditioning for Don Cherry's job?
No, but I do appreciate Burglar covering for me. Just wasn't able to. As long as along with the podcast last week, I mean, we just couldn't connect. Otherwise, it'd have been pretty cool for WIPH to have the first person from Canada contributing to the podcast, but it just didn't work out that way.
Well, I thought we had you on tape. I'm pretty sure I heard you talking about the Hobie Baker stuff.
Well, maybe.
Hey, Trasher. So
I can talk about it again tonight.
Trasher, is there any truth to the rumor that you brought back a Don Cherry jacket to wear at the state tournament?
No. But I did go to the Hall of Fame. I don't know if any of you guys have been up.
Okay.
The Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto was actually pretty cool. I was able to look at the Stanley Cup, and I found where one of our buddies from Wisconsin, Davis Drewiski, his name was on there, so I thought that was pretty cool. But I only was able to spend about an hour in the facility because we got there really late, and then they closed at 5, so we got there at like 4, and then probably spent about an hour. But pretty awesome stuff. The big thing is the 9 and 99 exhibit with Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky, and there's a lot of cool stuff. So if you ever have a chance to get up there, and I know Chris McGurk actually is a Toronto native. He's from Toronto originally. He knows all about that, but it was a very, very cool thing to see. And if you get a chance, go up there and check it out.
That explains why he thinks he's the god of hockey around here.
Well, what he doesn't know is that, or maybe he does know this, but on the WIAA hockey website, there's a picture of our number one referee official dropping a puck on the home page. So Chris McGurk, eat your heart out.
Any of you guys ever been up to the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame?
That's located in Bill's mother's hometown. Yes.
Yes.
We've been there.
Okay.
Yes, I have pictures of, like, I think just William. I don't think Lorelai was old enough. Like William sitting on the giant hockey puck, by the giant hockey stick. Yeah, I've been to the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame at least twice.
Only Hall of Fame I've made it to is I've been to Cooperstown.
You know, when I was out in Colorado a couple of years ago, went down to Colorado Springs, and Mason and I made the trip across the parking lot. We were right there by the World Arena, and just across that parking lot was the USA Hockey facility, the offices and stuff. And you know, there's just something when we went in there, it just was kind of disappointing. I guess I expected a lot more of, you know, displays of, you know, nostalgia and memorabilia, but there really wasn't that much stuff there. And got to admit, I was kind of disappointed, but that's about as close as I've come to the Hall of Fame. I did get to the one up at Pines, and I did see a post on I think it was either Facebook or Twitter. There's a picture of Cal Roadhouse looking around in the Wisconsin Hockey Hall of Fame, and the question was, is that guy going to end up in there?
Yeah, that was Facebook, and Cal Roadhouse is definitely a legend. Not sure exactly where he fits in with Wisconsin hockey in the meantime, but yeah, I mean, I've been in there, and that's a pretty nice place. I think they need to expand it, and I think they're planning on doing that. It just seems to be really small for all the people that are in there. They're all kind of crammed together. So, yeah, but who knows? Cal has done a lot of stuff for hockey in Wisconsin, and definitely a lot of stuff for hockey out of the state, but we'll see what happens.
does a lot of stuff for the junior Jets, and he also does stuff for Team Wisconsin over at the Minnesota Showcase. He's over there with his good buddy Dave Whitting, and there's another guy that'll probably end up in there as well, Dave Whitting. Let's move on. We've got our games of the week coming up this week. The Badgerland Conference tournament is coming up, and WIPH will be covering the championship game on Saturday of the Badgerland Conference tournament. And the girls' game tomorrow night, Black River Falls is taking on Wisconsin Valley Union in Marshfield. And made sure I got Union right there. Not the Red Panthers.
Well, I was trying to go all Ron Burgundy on it, so I wrote Onion on purpose.
Onion, yeah.
Yo, it's been,
Because MJ will read anything that's on the teleprompter.
No, it's not Onion, and it's been a few years since it's been the Red Panthers, but Tresh will be there to cover that game tomorrow night in Black River Falls, Wisconsin Valley Union, 7 o'clock at the Marshfield rink. Be there, aloha.
And I will be at the Badgerland Conference Championship, which I don't think we made it to last year, but we've been to, I know at least the 3 before that. That's our Badgerland Conference. We talk about this every year at this time, our favorite conference, because it's it was an 8-team conference that they play each other once, and then the purpose of that is just for seeding for the tournament, and then they have a tournament that wraps it up and crowns their conference championship. And the rule is that anything goes in that tournament. It's not often that the top ranked team wins that. So we'll be going back to this year. It's a 7-team tournament now. They did lose Beaver Dam, I think. With the Great Northern Conference, they picked up on that. Our good buddies, the coaches in Anago and Northland Pines, they pushed that through to the other teams that they are also doing the same format. They play each other once, which is seeding for the conference tournament. I think that doesn't take place this weekend, but it may take place next weekend. So we may have our game of the week for the following week, following up with that conference tournament. I think I was down with something last year, and Bill covered that one for us. But that's we like that. You got an 8-team tournament, play each other once, do a conference tournament that frees up your schedule to play other teams.
I believe the Fox River Classic is doing a conference tournament this year as well, but that's only a 5-team tournament, a 5-team conference.
I'd like to see more conferences do tournament. Guys, you got any thoughts on seeing more conference tournaments?
Well, it's a double-edged thing. Doing a conference where you're in a conference, you play each other twice, it makes it very easy for the scheduler. And generally, if you have a conference commissioner, it makes it easy on the teams because you've got 14 games that are scheduled. You play each team at your place, you play each team at their place. The conference commissioner lines up the officials. It's easy on the coaches. I think the reason some of the teams don't do that is when you have really an unbalanced conference where your top 1 or 2 teams are playing at one level and your bottom teams are playing at a different level, and you don't want to force those teams to play each other twice. And for that it's easier. But if you got a balanced tournament, a balanced conference, then you play each other. Like I said, easier on the scheduler, but probably better for the teams involved at the top and bottom end. Rather than facing the top team again, they can play somebody else more on their level. Frees them to go to a holiday tournament where the other teams are more at their level.
think you already see a lot of that, Bill. It was with holiday tournaments. I did notice that. You'll see a lot of teams go to tournaments, but you'll see the teams kind of play usually around, competitive level that they're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they try to do it. That's why, the same core group of teams plays each other at the start of the season in Eau Claire. Eau Claire, Notre Dame, Wausau West, and Superior always play that tournament at the start of season Eau Claire. Then they're all back in Green Bay for the showdown. And then they extended the showdown this year to another 4-team tournament in Wausau. Interrupted by weather, but, just, those teams are playing each other a lot. I have all kinds of gimmicks I would like teams to do. Now that Pagelli is not fielding a team, there's 4 Cardinals left in the state. Chippewa Falls, Fond du Lac, Middleton, and Sun Prairie. I want to see the Cardinal Cup every year. I want to know who's the best Cardinal every year. We're not basketball fans here, but are any of you familiar with the Big Ten ACC Challenge?
Yes.
The Big Ten and the ACC play each other in basketball at the start of every basketball season. I would like to see the Classic 8 and the Big 8, take their each 8-team conferences, have 1 versus 1 at the start of next season, 2 versus 2, based on last year's standings, have all 8 teams face off. That's a game right there. And, see which conference reigns supreme. I would like to see stuff like that. I think they're fun.
A perfect one would be the Badger North and Badger South. I mean, they're located basically in the same area, so it's not like a long trip for anybody. Do the same to Badger North versus Badger South tournament to start the season.
Yeah, that stuff would be fun. Just adds a little fake rivalry factor in, but that can be fun. And it's easy for the schedulers to get out of the way. They know that, all right, this weekend we're playing some random team from the Big 8,
Well, the other thing is with the Badger North and Badger South, they usually end up playing everybody one time in each other's conference as it is.
Well, not necessarily, because I was looking for. We've got a couple of teams like McFarland and Wanakee. One's in the Badger North, one's in the Badger South. They're both. I think they're both ranked in our Division II. They don't play each other this year. I didn't see. I looked at the schedule. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I know for a lot of it they do end up playing the other ones in the conference. I don't know if they get them all in. But...
Oh, apparently they don't.
Yep.
Trasher, who's your guest there?
That would be Junior Who. We call him Hudson. He wanted to come in and join us. So he'll be here for as long as I guess he wants to be.
If you hear a crashing sound, that's Trasher's cat knocking his drink off the desk.
Well, he won't do that because my drink is in the middle of the desk. He's kind of off to the side. He's a good boy. Sometimes.
Although when you brought that point up about conferences, like the Big Ten ACC Challenge, that really is a good idea. I mean, that would be a lot of fun.
All my ideas are good ideas, MJ.
Okay, well, if you say so, I mean, sure, but I like that one a lot.
I'm emotionally far more invested in the Cardinal Cup.
Let's talk to the coaches about it. Be kind of fun to do that. Final thoughts, guys. Saturday is February 1st, as we know, and time we start thinking about our end of season awards, I would bet. And Trasher, who just loves handing out awards and talking about awards. Anything would you like to spread out to our listeners?
Well, with regard to one award, I'm going to talk about Hobie. And Bill, I can see you shaking your head already on this one. I got the exactly. I got the latest report from Jim Hayes, who basically runs the Hobie show. 35 boys so far out of 83, which is 42%. 9 girls out of 28, which is 32%. We only have 9 days left. I mean, come on, guys. Get your nominations in. This is a worthwhile award. I'm preaching to the choir here because all you guys know this is a great thing. It's basically it's a great thing to put on your college resume. It's a great thing to put on a job resume. You know, hey, I got this Hobie Baker Award. Well, what's that for? Well, it means leadership, this, that, and the other thing. And I mean, employers look at stuff like that, so it's pretty cool. So that's basically my only thing as far as the awards go. And yes, and Dell and MJ, I'm sure you'll lead on to this a little bit more, but we're talking about the WIPH awards that are coming up soon. Maybe you guys can give a little more detail on that.
Well, before we jump into that, following up on what Trasher's saying about the Hobie Baker Award, coaches, if you have nominated somebody and you did not get a reply from Jim Hayes on it within a 24-hour period, either try sending him an email again. If you still don't get a reply, fire off an email to either Trasher or myself, and we'll follow up with Jim Hayes, because I do know I talked to a coach earlier this year in the last week saying that, you know, he had a player that he had nominated and it got missed because he couldn't get a reply. I mentioned something to Jim Hayes about it, and he just asked me to follow up on him if I hear any more about that. So if you have nominated and you didn't get a reply back within 24 hours, you know, let's just make sure that we do our follow up on it so that the player you nominated is getting recognized.
Yeah, and I think that no, if you nominate a player, that player, he or she, will get nominated, or will get recognized and will get the award. So no problem on that. Just like Del said, make sure that it all works out, and definitely an awesome award, and one that I think, and Burglar, right, 100%. No reason, no excuses. Why can't we do this?
Well, on to the WIPH awards. On the girls' side, coaches, I will be sending out an email within the next week asking for your recommendations from your team for the Janelle Sergi Award, which is our offensive player, for the Molly Engstrom Award, which is the defensive player, and for the Jesse Vetter Award, which is the goaltender. And then once again, we'll be doing the Rachel Bible Award, or actually it's not called the Rachel Bible. I'll have to look and see the exact name on it again because I can't remember Rachel's married name. But we'll be doing that award. That award basically comes back as the Unsung Hero Award. It's not necessarily a player that you find their name in the box scores every week. It's that player that's doing all the dirty things on the ice for you, the one that's sitting there and working their butts off at practice and helping set an example for the team as to what's needed. That's not always the person that's putting all the goals in the net. That's not the goaltender that's stopping every puck every time. This is that player that's busting their ass and doing what they can to help you become a better team, help your teammates become better players, and genuinely cares about your team. And with that, I'll let MJ talk about the boys' side.
Unless Rachel got remarried in the last year, it's the Rachel Kenyon Award.
Thank you.
Well, the boys, we have the awards coming up. We have the Joe Pavelski Award for forward, the top forward. Also, the Davis Druiski Award for defenseman, and the Kirk Dobbinspect Award for goalie. And on the boys' side, as Del was just talking to you about the Rachel Kenyon Award, we have the Adam Burish Award. Now, Adam Burish went on and had a nice career in the NHL and made some pretty good money. But he was one of those guys that in the NHL was just had to battle for everything he got. And he had some challenging stuff happen to him when he was in high school with a car accident. And all the way up. He had to battle to get where he was at. And we're looking for that guy who's just, like Dell said, one of those kids who works hard and is a good person, not always in the box score, but somebody who also is a major asset to your team. And guys, I can tell you one of the things when I got to listen to Adam Burrish speak before at the Jets banquet, Adam Burrish talked about when he made the Chicago Blackhawks, one of the things he made it as was a fighter. And, a lot of times he was outsized, but, that's what got him there. And that's what, kept him on the roster. And, he played a number of years in the NHL and, got paid for it too. So, not saying that we're looking for fighters in high school hockey.
Well, no, but we know what you mean. Yeah, we know what you mean about Adam Burrish. Like he's a role player. I mean, he knew what his job was. And he did it.
Yes.
And he went on. He was, and it kind of adds on to that he went on and was part of the Chicago Blackhawks broadcast crew on a regular basis. And then lo and behold, Patrick Sharp retires, and as Jeremy Roenick says, Patrick Sharp is a good-looking guy. So he replaces Adam Burrish, on the Chicago broadcast team, or kind of pushes Burrish down to a secondary role on that. So it's just that's the way it is for guys like Adam Burrish. The pretty boys step up and take your spot, and you just gotta kind of fight to keep your place in the world.
Well, Adam Burrish is not exactly a non-pretty boy. He's a very good-looking dude.
He's no Patrick Sharp. Come on.
Well, Patrick Sharp, he's overrated.
Like Jeremy Roenick says,
overrated.
Sharp.
But you know what? Patrick Sharp never has a hair out of place, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
No,
but he's not a Wisconsin guy, so screw him. Patrick Sharp.
Him and Henrik Lundqvist,
Yeah, you guys go off someplace else. We got our Wisconsin guys. Adam Burrish, you rock.
I'll let him know you said that. Any other final thoughts, guys?
I hope not.
This shows.
No. I have final thoughts. Come on now. Here,
Well,
come on. Hey,
we were afraid of that.
No. This is a small one, but game stories. We talked about doing that. We've only gotten a handful since my last rant, and I think my thing is don't be afraid. Send them to us. We will touch them up if need be and post them. We'd like to get your team a little publicity, and basically there's only like 2 or 3 teams that do it. So come on, get out there, go to the game, take some notes, write a little story. It doesn't have to be much, 3, 4 paragraphs or whatever. Send it to us. We'll post it. You guys get some pub, and it's good for all of us. Good for you, good for us. And that's it. Thank you. This is T-Dog, and I am out.
T-Dog. I can't hear you. You're making funny gestures at me.
You're not allowed to give. You're not allowed to give yourself a nickname.
This is not I made myself a nickname. It's I've been Trasher forever and ever and ever. Amen. And it became Trasher Dog, and then after that it became Trasher or T-Dog. So it's in this case T-Dog. We're